Hi Neil, welcome to Biztalk. It's my great pleasure having you. How are you?
I'm very good, Max. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you today.
Thanks for coming. So let's start giving a little bit of a background.
Yes, well, I started up the design business, say, 3 years ago now, built on sort of 20 plus years experience working for large agencies, consultings, all the name that you would know. What I wanted to do was bring the value of design to small and medium-sized startup businesses, because I really see that the business value of design is so important nowadays. Obviously, with things like COVID and etc., that's changed the way that customers interact with businesses and created a whole new world of different business opportunities. I think now is a wonderful time for innovating businesses, startups, etc., to really seize the opportunity to move this forward, because they're agile, they can move, they can invest in a way that, say, the larger corporations would find it more difficult to do. So that's my ambition with the design business. To help those types of companies move their ambitions forward.
What do you mean when say happy moving? How do you do that?
How do you do it? Well, I guess when you're starting up a business, you've got a wonderful idea. You want to, you have to invent something. You've got an idea for a new platform, a new piece of software. It's really important to have the customer's voice in that. You have to understand how your business is going to fit into their lives, how it is going to bring value, be that a B2C or a B2B business. And what I can help businesses with from the kind of strategy perspective is really kind of say, well, what type of experience are you trying to create for your new business? What makes you different? What do you believe in? We all started our own businesses for a reason. We all have passions. Then really trying to help them understand who their customers are, looking at what they could potentially achieve from the customer's perspective and building an understanding of that. There's, a term of phrase that every business meeting that you need to have has to have your customer present. That whole idea of co-design. And I can help businesses really think about that and bring the customer to their strategy and their design sort of process. Then, I'm from a graphic design background. I graduated into the dot-com boom. I've been through all of those, transitions of digital, where it went from being websites to being service design to, getting involved in, multi-million pound digital transformation for large corporations. And being able to help businesses realize what it is they want to achieve. So be it the website, the brand, the look and feel, the content, the imagery, all of that's got to really pull into the message and make sure that it connects with the customer that you want to connect with. And then it also fulfills your brand values. Does that look like us? Are those fulfilling the experience principles that we created? When somebody opens it up for the split second you've got to make your first impression, are you connecting with that customer?
You've been working, I presume, with many companies, right? From startup to more mature companies. Where do you see they struggle? Let's talk about startup, because this is where we are more focused. Where do you see startups struggling the most when it comes to acquiring and talking to customers?
I think it's hard to get known. First off, to present what you have, and then there's a pressure. There's a time pressure. There's a financial pressure to be able to go to market, to start generating profit. What needs to happen, just at the kind of very start, or just when you're beginning to think, okay, well, let's take this to the market. Understanding what it is you are, or who it is you are talking to, and what it is that you're trying to achieve. Because quite often a startup will put everything out there. They will, say all of the things that it will do. I've worked with software companies, and quite often they put every single feature that the piece of software will do, rather than focusing on the solution that the software gives. What is the problem that the software solves? What is the job that it does, rather than what are all the features and functionality? And I think sometimes that can get missed. Also, startups will then be bombarded with the kind of, I guess, the reactive things. I need a website. I need some social media. I need a brand. And they'll get lots of individual people to help them do that. And sometimes it might be rushed. They also might invest in the wrong technology platform because they haven't necessarily worked out all of their functional requirements. They haven't got an idea, not just of what they need to do this week or this month, but what's the trajectory of the business. And if you have an idea of where you want to go, you've got more chance of leaving all of the doors open to help you develop and help you invest your money in the right way. So often people buy a piece of technology or invest in a platform or spend lots of money on social media, and it doesn't reap the rewards. It doesn't bring to them the exposure they have, doesn't give them the commercial return that they were wanting. And having an idea of that strategy and vision can really help businesses choose effectively what it is that they're going to do next.
I mean, startups are not that well funded, at least at the beginning. How they can cope in marketing in the right way when you have just very little money? Marketing is expensive.
It is, and that's actually something that I'm passionate about solving. These things don't need to be lengthy, and I think that's where people lose an awful lot of money, because there are lots of wonderful companies around that will say, I'll do a social media strategy, I'll do a marketing strategy, I will build you a website, I will do all of these other things that you can push forward. But the business themselves hasn't sat back and go, okay, well, what is it that we need? What will actually have the biggest impact? So they're not necessarily investing their money where they need. You get a pressure saying, oh, you need Instagram, you need social, you need to be advertising on LinkedIn, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. And if you do everything, you have no way of, you will spend an awful lot of money. But what I can help businesses do is go, right, okay, I've got a much clearer idea. Let's try this. Let's try this and move forward. And I think also bringing into the process of designing and moving a company forward, a kind of sprint methodology is good. So when you've decided, okay, this is the trajectory that we want to go on, what's the next thing we need to do? Let's do that. Let's invest properly on that. Let's measure the return. Let's talk to the customer, see how effective that was, and then make a decision. So rather than investing something and then going for 3 months and not checking back with the customer, checking back on how effective that's been, if you're doing it continually, if this is the fast iteration that you build as part of your culture, you're more likely to be able to spend your money more effectively and build something that your customers want to have. I know businesses are a little bit reticent about doing that. Have somebody like myself going, let's build some customer personas. Let's talk about the experience principles that you want to create for your business. They go, actually, I'm not at that stage yet. But from the companies that I've been working with, it's reaped an awful lot of rewards to be able to do that. I think really positive things that have fed back is that Neil, especially in the early stages, really helped us see our business from a different perspective, and we've developed well because of that.
I really distinguish between marketing and communication.
Yes.
There are so many ways to do marketing, but doesn't mean you're communicating anything. So
Nice.
how they really can understand if they are communicating something to the customers, or actually they're just spreading the words and reaching nothing?
Measuring is obviously, we can obviously get the analytics from Google, from etc. when you're putting out messaging, but then also asking the customer, having that dialogue, always be in conversation with them. Obviously every business is different. Whether you're bringing people through the door, whether you're doing online sales, whether it's about awareness and you've got a larger sale, or you're trying to build relationships. So always asking for feedback, always responding to both the positives and the negatives. There's no one answer, there's no one silver bullet, but I think having a conversational relationship with your customers is probably an overarching methodology that could be useful.
Based on experience, which are the most effective way to market your business? Let's say from B2B and B2C. I know we can't generalize so much, but based on experience, what exactly should be done to get out and communicate?
Well, I feel actually I'd almost challenge the term marketing. I think companies need to be designed from the heart in, and how they express themselves and how they look and how they interact with their customers is all part of that experience. The design, the marketing, the messaging are all implementations of that big idea. I remember this wonderful quote actually from, I think it was Kevin Gaskell from Porsche. He said, "We're not a car company, we're an experience company." Because they're not selling cars, they're selling the experiences that the cars bring. It's just like, oh my God, what do you mean that we're not a car company? And I think it's important that people don't see design as a layer of decoration. If they need to design their processes, they need to design their customer journeys. And then you put, so you would have a core customer journey, be it somebody would find you on the internet or somebody would buy a product from you. If you follow that customer journey and you look at where that customer could engage most effectively, where they would disengage, how you then bring them back. If you model your entire business design around that customer journey and then implement your experience principles, how do I make it look like I want to look? How do I make sure that my brand is telling the story about myself that I want it to tell? Then I guess you don't really need to be, marketing in the traditional sense. You are expressing yourself, your values, and what you believe in your company.
I mean, you say something very right, and I really want to challenge you. Tesla, on the balance sheet, market is almost irrelevant. We are talking about some kind of maybe 100,000, nothing, zero. So Tesla is selling on Musk image completely, 100%. Tweeting and whatever it is. How founders can read something.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
How the founders can read something. We've been talking to founders every day. You need to put your round is 1 million, maybe 30% of the round will go to marketing, okay? And after you get Musk who almost spend no money at all. It's astonishing. How come this?
Well, I think it's almost like, how would you market the marketing? Because people always put it off. Oh, we can do that at the end. We can do that at the end. And that is challenging, because they almost see it. And I was having a conversation with somebody last week as decoration, be it, I'm good for analogies, but it's almost like you bake the cake, which is your company, and now you've brought somebody in to do the icing. And that's not what design can offer your business. I think, you pull back to, even my previous employers, McKinsey, they put out a wonderful report where they studied this, where they looked at the business value of design. And they have proven that companies that invest in having, or looking at people designing their services, looking at designing their products, and looking at the whole customer experience, are up to 50% more successful. So it's almost like, rather than, justifying it, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the businesses that are achieving and say, well, let's follow that model, because they need, it's less opinion and it's more about fact nowadays, that the businesses who invest in design are more successful.
What do you mean when you say design exactly?
Design, yeah, no, it's a very broad term. I think that overarches, say a lot of the large corporations nowadays, they will have customer experience directors. They will talk about CX. So what is the experience of customers for our business? So that is one element of it. Then there is the implementation. So the UX, you have service design. So if you have an online digital business, if you sell things, if you're, utility company, software company, even the interface of a piece of software, all of that is the experience of your product. Or if you post things out to people, what kind of box does it come in? How do you do that? What messages are inside that? All of those really wonderful companies that are doing those kind of things will have these smart messages. They will show that they believe in recycling. They will do all of those kind of things. Every single touch point needs to if nothing else, instill the brand principles you believe in, but hopefully delight and surprise and take people further with what it is that you're trying to communicate and the type of business that you need to be.
I mean, exactly, talking about design, how important is the branding and understanding even the name of the company and logo?
I think it's very important because you need to have a presence and you need to build confidence. So just down from very basic, if you have a website, if you have a logo, there's a level of affirmation. Are you a well designed enough company? People will form an opinion of your business within a split second of seeing a piece of marketing, the first page of your website. And hopefully that's right. And hopefully that's spot on. But if it's not, and it's not quite what you want to say, then you've got to almost backtrack, go, no, wait, this is what we're about. This is what we're about. And that's quite difficult to do. So I think, but also I think businesses are quite often reactive, and they look to lots of different brands and go, well, how do I mimic that brand? How do I build on what they've already achieved? Now, there is a level of competitor analysis that you need to do. But one thing I very passionately believe in is that your own brand identity should express yourself. It should tell your own story. It should be the things that you care about, and it should, So, I mean, I have lots of things in my own brand identity, which is always challenged. Being a designer, going, how did you actually come up with your own brand? It's probably the toughest project any designer will ever have. And every single element of what's in my brand is something that was important to me from my design history, from my design story. I used to be a racing cyclist, so the colours have actually come from cycling, because that's important part of my character, important part of my history. The logo is a typeface Gill Sans, which I studied at university, and it was one of those first moments where I really started to understand design. So the design business is there. And there's even elements from my favourite football club and their typeface, because I did some design for there. And it's all kind of pulled, it's all kind of, telling my story. So when I look at it, I go, that's me. And then I think it has more confidence. And I feel that any business, that's a silly, quite small story, but I think with any business, it needs to feel like an expression of what you need to achieve. If you look at it and go, I'm really proud, I want to show that, I believe in that, that's everything I want this to be, it's going to be more successful. And it's the same as if the staff look at it and go, yeah, I believe in that, I've contributed to that, I've taken ownership of that. Your business will be more successful.
We are saying, it's pretty common to say it's all about storytelling. What do you think?
Yes. Our businesses are stories. I have a story. You do as well. And I think we bring, to that story, the passions, the experiences, the ambitions that we all have. And then the business itself is telling a story. As it goes through, it will grow, it will go through moments, it will bring on new people, and that will bring character and culture to the organization. And there will be phases of all of this. So yeah, storytelling is really important. And then if we've got the story right internally, then just telling that story to the customers, and then inviting them into that story, because it's their story as well. Your business belongs to them as much as they, to you. I think there was an important stat actually around that, saying nearly 50% of customers will only buy or do business from businesses who they feel hold the same values that they do.
Of course.
And that's important.
Absolutely. Storytelling is absolutely right, but if I am a 3-month startup, it's complicated to write my story because I'm just starting to write it. How two founders can communicating something when there is no story at all? It has to be all written.
I have a little tool that's actually quite fun, and a lot of what I do is actually workshops, and really short workshops that are really good to actually help pull that out of businesses. So if I was to ask, any business owner, pick 5 words that would describe the experience you want to create with your business. And if you can get as many people from the business in the room at the same time, that's brilliant. And then let's put them up on the wall. Okay, well, what do you mean by that? And how are we going to do that? And, how do we communicate to that customers? And it's a really important, conversation to have. It could also be a lot of fun. And that then kind of goes, well, actually, this is the story. But, it's like somebody like myself coming in and asking the right questions. I don't know what their business should look like. They would need to tell me or, tell another creative. But the important thing of this is asking the right questions. Similarly to the fact that, if you've got a business idea, you will have an idea of the market segment. You will have an idea of those customers. But you kind of need to put yourself in their shoes. And again, it's just a conversation. And I'm sure all the people involved in the business have lots of wonderful experiences about what goes through the world of a sales director or a doctor, or, a nurse, or, I was looking at your medical pictures the other week. How, what kind of environment are they in? What are their stresses? And how is your service, tool, product going to service them? Again, these are very short pieces to be able to do, but they help give that different perspective. And then can build forwards pretty much on everything apart from the business. You have to have the customer there.
What about the customers storytelling? Because I'm expressing my story. I will tell you what actually I'm going to do, how I've done, and what I've been through in my life. Maybe if I'm a founder, because there's not that much I can tell you about the business. We just get started. But what about the customers I'm reaching?
The customers themselves, actually, how do they tell their story?
Yeah, because I do believe we talk to people as people are. You can't talk to everyone the same way. There is no way.
I think I understand. Sort of, I think the customer needs to be able.
Let me be more specific. Many startups. We are talking about startups because Biztalk is done primarily for founders starting a business. Mm-hmm. Struggle to understand how to communicate because actually they don't know what their customers, they know maybe, but they do not understand them. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know exactly how your customer think, you can't communicate to 20 years boy, guy, girl, whoever he is, and 50, 40, 60. And you can't communicate to European as you communicate to a Latin American. You need to know the story of this people.
You do. And this is where looking at your primary or persona groups really helps. Because a lot of businesses will say, well, who is your market? And they'll go, well, everybody. But that's not actually true. If you kind of say, well, okay, well, who's gonna buy from you? Who's gonna influence that purchase? Who's gonna talk about you? Then also, I had this really good piece of advice the other week about any new business is that if you try to be everything to everyone, you're not going to succeed. You need to find your niche to build your initial market inertia, and then you can build from there. So, for me, maybe it's, working with startups and entrepreneurs, maybe that's my niche because I can, do that. But I could position myself to work with large corporates, or I could position myself to work with e-commerce. But maybe finding my niche is the important thing to build my own business. And I think that's the same for everybody, because once you get to a certain size, you can then go, okay, well, which markets are interesting? What opportunities have we discovered? And some people may find that limiting, but it also helps target your marketing and also reduces the spend.
How you can advise founders to get right when it comes to marketing, when it comes to strategy, how to approach the market, how to communicate to the market? What would you like to recommend them? What can be your advice to them? You should actually move in this way. They are very young. They have no idea. They got a very great idea. But they need to understand how to move an idea to the market. It's so complicated. Ideas I don't like to say idea cheap because I don't like to use this word, but you can come up with an idea, that's fine. But moving idea to concept, concept to business, that's another word, something completely different, very tiring, very difficult to achieve. I need to be so determined, but it's not enough. You need to know how to do, you need to know how to execute.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when it comes to marketing, which means your go-to-market strategy, where be online, your go-to-market strategy is very much marketing and sales, more marketing and sales. What actually you can recommend to them, advising them to do, how to move?
I would it'd be interesting for startups to know this, but I had come from helping very large corporations, multi-million, billion-pound financial services, banks, UBS, Barclays, etc. And they wanted to be more agile, like the West Coast startups, and be able to kind of, really move that way. The processes that were developed to do that are rapid concept prototyping, are startups, are getting as many people as you can in the room from all different sectors of your business and having a conversation about who's the customer and then what is it you want to achieve, and trying to actually get them to prototype these pieces themselves, into kind of, rapid concept prototypes, trying to turn around a prototype within, a few days and seeing how that looks and putting it in people's hands and testing it, and trying, build that culture of test and learn, small steps. We do this thing, we learn from it, we make a decision and we move on to the next. And I think you need the business themselves need to have a vision conversation of what we'd like to be, where we'd like to go. As you put on your notes, what is your exit strategy? And then build a path towards that. So you have an idea with no boundaries whatsoever. What would you like to achieve? And then you go, right, okay, what's our first step towards that? Then once you've taken your first step, what do we know now? Right, what's our second step? And just get that culture, because of test and learn, ask the customer. It's not rocket science, it really isn't, but it's just having the confidence to go, as long as you're moving forward and you've got a pretty good idea of where you want to go to, don't worry about not being where you need to be in a year. Work out where you need to be next week.
That's right. Let me ask you, how different is marketing a product and marketing a service?
I would probably challenge into a certain things that products have become services. Just in that, I think everything is service design.
Tesla is not selling, guys, selling technology.
But I think, selling, I guess something that comes in a box that you use or something like that. Obviously you need to market what the product is. You need to find out who it's for and, how they're going to use it and, market the sales of that end product. I guess a lot of startups, quite often they're digital businesses, aren't they? They will be, unless they're looking to sell to the massive, distributors, they're looking to, build a platform online and sell that way. So they will need to build customer relationships. How are customers using the product? What kind of feedback are they going to get? How do we get them to refer to? And looking at, I guess, the whole, who are the target customers? How do we market to them? How does our product fit into their lives? And is it valuable? Brilliant. And then how do we make them aware of us? How do we get their interest? How do we get them to buy for us? And then how do we get them to feed back? How do we get them to tell people about us? All of these things are about onboarding, getting to know, making sure the customer's happy, learning from their experience, and trying to make them advocates and ambassadors. And that's how businesses grow. But it's not just about acquisition. It's not just about sales. And this is the one thing that can be very damaging for a business, when they will just go, how many new customers have you got? But I ask, well, how many repeat customers have you got? Because they're the ones that are going to build your business. And, quite often, large corporations, they were completely driven by acquisition. They would reward their sales staff on acquisition, but nobody was rewarded about retention.
That's true. Absolutely true. Neil, where our founders can find you if they need you?
They can find me at the design business. That's thedesign.business. And obviously I'm, on LinkedIn and etc. there. And, more than willing to have a conversation with anybody and, hear their story, and happy to give some initial advice and hopefully help them further on their journey.
Neil, thank you very much for coming to Biztalk. It's been a very great pleasure for me.
Thank you very much, Max. Me too.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.